Welcome everyone to our first info session for the class of 2023. Can't believe it. I've been in this business for a long time. We're excited about hosting our first info session. We've got a great agenda for today. I'm Sean Ferguson, Associate Dean at the Asia School of Business in collaboration with MIT Sloan. One of the things that you'll recognize about us is that we have a very intimate admissions process. We get to know people very well. We're super hands-on. So I encourage all of you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see all the good things that are going on at ASB, and I'm always there for you to talk and chat with me, all right? So for those of you guys who don't know, ASB is a product of the need for world-class talent in Malaysia, the region, and in the emerging world. And so our partnership was formed 5 years ago between the MIT Sloan School of Management and Bank Negara, the Central Bank of Malaysia, with the explicit goal of being a talent magnet and multiplier for the region. If you think about Asia or Southeast Asia, there's 720 million people here, right? But if you count the number of schools that are ranked in the Financial Times or the Economist MBA rankings, less than a handful of schools. You compare that to like the US, you know, there's 330 million people and at least 50 schools in the top 100 of both those rankings. And so we had a visionary leader who thought Malaysia would be a good place to start a world-class business school. And what really makes us unique is that our mission, like most schools, we want to be premier school of management education in Asia, known for creating transformative and principled leaders. But most schools, no school has the advancement of the emerging world, especially Asia, in their mission. And I think this is what separates us and gives us a level of purpose that other schools don't necessarily have. And that's, I think, what's attracted a lot of the great students and faculty that we have here at the business school. In terms of our value proposition, we feel like ASB, the ASB MBA is for frontier-minded, impact-oriented individuals looking to build a global career. And so the four critical pillars of our value proposition are that MIT Sloan DNA, where we have the rigor, the educational pedagogy, but we do it in a context that's relevant for the emerging world here in Asia. The other thing that separates us from other schools is our action learning curriculum. Our action learning curriculum is designed to position students for the future of work. And what we've seen from the first few classes is that it's led to tremendous career transformation. And this career transformation has led into strong global career outcomes and placement. And when you take the strong global career outcomes and placement in tandem with market-leading scholarships, the return on investment for ASB makes our value proposition without peer. And throughout this presentation, we'll talk to the things that contribute to these four elements. Now, some of you in this program might be trying to decide between our MBA for Professionals program and our full-time MBA program. And there, you know, when we have designed our programs, it's for two profiles of individuals. There are the career changers and then the career accelerators. And so career changers are individuals who want to totally shift gears and transition from their existing career path. And generally what that looks like is someone wants to change at least two dimensions of their career profile: industry, function, or geography. They're really ready to do something different and looking to make a change. So some people don't know exactly what they want to do. They just know that at this point in time, it's time for a change and they want to better maximize their potential. Also, they're looking to explore all aspects of personal and professional development. And you know, when you contrast that to career accelerators, those are working professionals who seek to enhance their career while exploring areas that are synergistic with their existing career tracks. The career accelerator profile is typically intended for the MBA for a working professional student. These are individuals who are happy with their industry or function. They have a strong support network in their company. And this is representative of the advocacy of their bosses, mentorship, and things of that nature. And but because of the nature of their role, they don't necessarily have the time flexibility to pursue a full-time MBA. And in a lot of cases, individuals have family and personal financial considerations. So it can be more challenging for individuals with kids who are married or et cetera. And so we've tried to design a program that meets these two different profiles of individuals, all right? Now, one of the things that we're excited about is we feel like MBAs are ideally suited for what Asia Pacific needs. And, you know, we feel like they aren't prevalent enough, right? But based on trends that we see emerging in the region and in the world, we feel like this is the best place to be. Asia is the future of the global economy. The real question is, will it fulfill its potential? You know, the economic gap between the G7 and the rest of the world continues to close, especially amongst Asian countries. China continues to move up the value add chain and has become more of a service economy. And with China moving up the value add chain, that's created an opportunity for ASEAN, Southeast Asia, for those who aren't familiar with the term, to pick up some of the slack from China's migration up the value add chain. And then the bigger issue, and the biggest issue that I think makes Asia appealing to MBA candidates is that there's a huge talent deficit in the region. And if the region is going to kind of fulfill the growth expectations that the world has for it, it's going to need more world-class talent. There was this Korn Ferry article that talked about that there being a significant talent deficit of high-skilled individuals who can innovate, manage, create, and apply, right? And that's essentially what the MBA is. When you overlay the talent shortage along with the fourth industrial revolution, the skill sets that's needed are going to change. We continue to see more and more data that says the half-life of a learned skill continues to get shorter and shorter. The average job tenure continues to shrink. And so as skills and job roles are turning over, the MBA, we feel, will continue to become more prevalent and more prominently needed in this part of the world. Why do we know this? A lot of it's about supply and demand and economics. And MBAs in Asia are outperforming well after graduation compared to other parts of the world. So even though they're not as prevalent, MBAs are not as prevalent as, say, they are in the US, the growth is rapidly accelerating in this part of the world. There's a couple of factors contributing to that, and we think we'll continue that trend. First, the post-COVID-19 consumer sentiment is really strong in this part of the world. I'll talk about this a little bit more later. If you look at since the 2001 Enron dot-com bust, Asia has outperformed the US and international schools in terms of salary growth by 27% and 42% respectively. And we also think as in past cycles, whether it was the dot-com bust or whether it was the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, as the companies retrenched and got rid of low performers, they hired new talent in the form of MBAs, right? And then if you look at the growth in Asian ranked business schools has increased from 2 in 1999 to 17 in 2020. That's another element of the growth in talent that we're seeing in this part of the world. So why is the generalist skill set in high demand? There's just too much uncertainty in today's business environment. I think what companies are also realizing is while they hire discipline skill in the early stage of careers, what they really rely on after the first and early career roles are generalist skill sets. Also, the ideological reliance of individuals on a single perspective is detrimental to an environment that's constantly changing in Industry 4.0. And so employees with more skills and functions are more valuable, and management can deploy them faster in many more roles, right? And people armed with analytical capabilities, but that are developed through experience, will outperform just domain-specific experts over time. And so, and our curriculum is fundamentally built to kind of address these needs here. Now, our response to the market is really built on a pedagogy where we think about things on two dimensions. We call smart and sharp skills through our action learning approach is really what's helping ASB better meet the needs of the region. And I think all of you guys have heard about soft skills and hard skills, right? And so for us, we thought soft and hard skills are kind of a gross oversimplification of what hard technical skills and human skills are. And so we've come up with our own vernacular that really focuses on sharp skills being those kind of technical skills like accounting economics, operations, marketing, and smart skills being that you're what people commonly think of soft skills as leadership, communications, and not just being able to stand up at the front of the room, but being able to engender buy-in and move people from one position to another, having a creative and problem-solving approach to challenges, and then also being comfortable with ambiguity, having a growth mindset, and having a global mindset. So in short, when we think about our sharp skills, they really provide the knowledge and the skill foundation that you need, but smart skills facilitate getting things done through those sharp skills. And so this is what we think is a fundamental element of our program, and we accomplish this through action learning, which we think is our key differentiator. It's one of our greatest source of impacts, and it's at the core of our curriculum. And we believe that it's going to provide a future-proof skill set for graduates of our program. By 2025, they say there's going to be 10 times the amount of data in the world today. So we can't prepare business leaders for the future of tomorrow by just having knowledge transfer. And so what we try to do in action learning is we teach our students how to learn so that they can learn to do and problem solve. We've done, since the start of the program, we've had 142 different corporate partners, almost 300 projects conducted across 26 different countries. And when we do this, we do this over the course of the 2-year program. If you look at this schematic here, we call our curriculum MBA 3.0. Each semester, our students spend 4 weeks on site with our corporate partners solving a real-world business problem, all right? And so if you look in fall 1, first semester, and our panelists, we'll talk a little bit more about their experience. You take classes, then you go on site for a week to scope out the project with our corporate partner. Then you come back, take more classes, go back, do the work, take classes, come back, wrap up, present to management. And we do this every semester throughout the project, throughout the program, sorry. In the first semester, those projects are in Malaysia, but then in semesters 2 and 4, those are all over Southeast Asia or Asia. We've had projects in the last class that were as far west as Saudi Arabia, as far north as Korea. So one of the things that you get the opportunity to build in our program is a cross-cultural savvy that's really not going to just position you for success in Asia, but for a global career more broadly. Also in our program, we talk about the inculcation of the MIT DNA. At the end of the first year, we send our students to MIT for a 4-week immersion where they take 5 classes. And so that really, makes sure we bake in that kind of MIT DNA. And then in the second year, we do the China Trek. And the China Trek is we do that for a week, and that's really to expose our students to the innovation that's going on in China. And so I'll talk about some of our adaptations and how we've addressed some of these issues in the COVID world. But this is our curriculum in a nutshell. And for those of you in the MBA who are interested in the MBA Working Professionals program, our program is not exactly the same, but thematically and our approach is the same as far as interspacing the action learning and giving you a chance to take what you learned in the classroom and put it back into your job. Now, why does action learning work? First and foremost, we think it's the opportunity to solve real world problems and leverage the smart and sharp skills that we talked about earlier. Also, the retrieval practice that happens in action learning and the frequency with which it happens creates kind of this testing effect and allows for better retention. Also, the learning opportunities are spaced and interleaved, and so it gives the time for individual reflection and self-learning that we think is more impactful. And then the way the faculty engage with you is more as a coach, a learning coach, right? So they're not instructors, they're faculty as coaches. And this is what we believe has the greatest impact. And what we've seen is that the evidence has been very compelling for our approach to learning. So in our full-time MBA program, for the class of 19 that graduated last year, their salaries would have ranked 52nd in the world in the most recent Financial Times rankings. Now, that's interesting because the salaries in the Financial Times ranking is for graduates 3 years after graduation. So for us to already be at the median at graduation, that speaks well to the kind of impact that our students are having. and their ability to command what they're able to command in the market. Also, in a class of 35, our students were placed in 14 countries across 5 different continents. What we're seeing is that tech and knowledge-based industries are leading the way. And one of the things that, when we looked at some of the performance of our students in the job market, the alignment of action learning projects with what are the real problems actually going on in the market right now really positions our students for success. When you have a model that's working well when you deploy it a different way and it has similar outcomes. So in our initial MBA for Working Professionals class, 61% of the students received a promotion, title change, or expansion of responsibilities in their first year of the program. So we're really excited about that. I've been in this business for 15 years, and usually you hope at the end of 2 years in the program, you get about 40% of the class that has gotten some level of promotion. So to get that after the first year of the class just speaks to the impact of our program. I talked about salary earlier. This is just to give you a sense of progression from 2018 to 2019. For those of you guys who don't know, PPP is a way for us to compare salaries across different markets. We use our World Bank economic cost of living adjustment factors to compare dollars in Thailand to dollars in Singapore, right? And so one of the things that we have to help our graduates understand is that $70,000 in Bangkok might be better than $90,000 in Hong Kong, might be materially better than $90,000 in Hong Kong. I talked about earlier in the class of 2019, 52% of our students wound up working in the tech industry. Another 17% worked in the consulting industry, and then 17% in the others. So a wide range of our students went into a wide range of different opportunities. And then most of them, about 56% of them worked in Malaysia or Southeast Asia, but then the rest worked all over the world. These are graduates from the class of 2020. And so, so we've had people who are in a range of responsibilities. CJ went to go be the head of product for Be Infinite. It's part of the Berjaya company, which is kind of a Malaysian conglomerate. And what we're seeing also in this part of the world, some of the big conglomerates are trying to reinvent themselves as tech companies and kind of developing these spin-off initiatives. And so CJ is in that program leading as a product leader. Zoe is Dutch. She's been in Southeast Asia now for probably 10 years, and now she's working for the United Nations. Jishnu will be working for Anheuser-Busch in China. Esther is working for a life sciences startup in Singapore. Now, some of these people, that's where they're going to work. Right now, they may be working remotely, but that's where they're working. Rafael, Spanish heritage, is working for Samsung in their rotational program. Ashley is working as a chief of staff in another high-powered executive support role similar to Yizhen, who will be speaking to us later, with one of Malaysia's hottest startups, SOCAR. Ironically enough, Alec Etsy, he's American, and he went back to work with Clear Motion in Boston, and they're another kind of mobility company. And then Kevin is working for Novo Nordisk, which is a Scandinavian pharmaceutical company, and he's in their leadership development program. On the working professional side, these are a couple of individuals who have also had big changes. So Rafael is a German who's based in Japan, who flies in for our working professional program. He got promoted from an analyst role to assistant manager role for global promotion at his company. And then Nick Aisha, she works at Sapporo Energy, one of our longtime partners. She was the general manager of the group cash management. Now she's the head of group treasury and investor relations. So the successes are everywhere in the program, and we feel good about what we're doing here at the Asia School of Business. Now one of the things I get a lot of questions about, what about COVID? And so we feel really good about what's going on with COVID in this part of the world. If you look at a lot of the studies and the surveys, emerging Asian consumers and executives are most optimistic about a post-COVID-19 world. And that's because Asia's been strategic and proactive when it comes to managing COVID-19. On the flip side, when you look at North America, it's been struggling with their outlook. It still hasn't gotten it under control. And then if you look at the two charts on the right, the chart at the top is data from a McKinsey study where we took they did a study on consumer sentiment across a myriad of markets, and we compared the optimistic, pessimistic ratios, right? So their survey basically grouped the respondents into optimistic categories, pessimistic categories, or in the middle. And so when you see China, you see the optimistic, pessimistic ratio. That means for every one pessimistic person in China, there's 8.7 optimistic people, right? Indonesia, off the charts. India, off the charts. When you get to the developing world, it goes down. Funny enough, America is the most optimistic developing country. And to me, that's a sign they still don't have an understanding of what's going on yet. If you look at Australia on over to the right, if the ratio is less than 1, that means there's more pessimistic people than optimistic people. On the bottom chart, what you see is a corporate 6-month outlook from a survey that was done in July 2020. You see to the left, APAC, China, India, most optimistic about the 6-month outlook. In just a month, from June to July, the corporate executive sentiment in North America, primarily driven by the United States, is down 13%. And so what we're seeing here is an acceleration of trends in Asia. Hot sectors like tech and health continue to start to move forward and recover at a faster rate than others. And so we feel good about what's going on here in this part of the world from a macro perspective. What this means, though, for ASB is that we feel like we're the school of choice for managing in a post-COVID world. You know, onboarding and student care. So when COVID first broke out, you know, safety first and a high level of commitment to our students were the first priority. What we're doing now is dual delivery, in-person and hybrid. So some of our students have been able to make it to campus, some haven't. And so we've outfitted our classes with a hybrid setup so that we can integrate both groups together, but while also providing flexibility, recognizing the challenges of different time zones. I'll show you a picture in the next slide of our new building, but because of our footprint relative to our size as a startup, we should have no problem adhering to social distancing protocols and things of that nature. So again, the environment's safe. And the hope is that, you know, in 2021, in spring 2021, we'll be expected to be in person with no dual delivery, and everyone will be here. What this has meant for us academically is that online doesn't mean moving in-person PowerPoint to Zoom. The learning outcomes are still the same, and our faculty are revisiting their pedagogy. Our MIT faculty, and so MIT faculty typically teach 35 to 40% of our programs. In the pre-COVID world, they would come here for a week and teach a course. Now they're committed to the fall to do it digitally, but they're still supportive in being engaged with us. And what's been great is that while these challenges have been, heavy for us, I think our not only have the faculty, but the students, I think, have stepped up to make it a productive learning experience. And our teaching effectiveness actually increased at the end of the summer for our online courses versus our offline courses from 4.34 to 4.7. When it comes to careers, we've been super hands-on in our approach. And we started our early careers preparation with our first years back in June to get everyone up to speed in anticipation of the challenges and the dynamic environment. One of the things that, you know, people choose our program is because of the travel and learning experiences that we have in different contexts. And so our goal is to do as much in-person learning as possible. We're able to do our action learnings here in Malaysia for the first semester. For the first semester students, we're committed to doing as much programmatic travel as possible in consideration of country restrictions. And then for our MIT immersion, while things are uncertain in the US, one of the things that we've worked out with MIT is that even if the students have to go, if we have to do a digital substitution for their cycle, they still have 3 years to go and participate in a full immersion after graduation to get that in-person experience. And so I think this speaks to our approach and our commitment to students. And as a young, small school, we feel like nobody is better positioned to dynamically respond to the situation. Lots of momentum at the school. You know, in the right corner is our new academic building that we were supposed to move in now, but because of COVID was delayed, and we'll move into the new academic building in January. If you look at the lower left corner, you'll see the white buildings on the right. Those are residential complexes, and it looks like that may be where Luiza is. Ranjini, we hope will be here soon, and we moved in there last December. And then if you look in the top left corner, that's our atrium, which is massive, right? So I've been at multiple business schools that are, so when I was at HKUST, we had 4,000 students. At Rice, we had 700 students. And both of those schools had brand new buildings. And these buildings are 4 to 6 times the size of those buildings. So it shows you the kind of aspiration that we have for our programs here. The momentum is continuing. We have our largest class ever despite COVID times. You know, 35% of this year's class is from Malaysia, 65% of this year's class is international, 43% are female. And so one of the things that's amazing is that we have 16 deferrals where that, you know, most of them are COVID related. So if it wasn't for COVID, we would probably have close to 67 students. And that would have been, that's an amazing number. That's like more than 50% larger than our largest classes. So a lot of momentum on our full-time program. Our working professionals program, we're at 16 now. We start in a few weeks, so we think we'll get into the 18-20 range. So we're excited about the second cohort there. From a financial aid perspective, full-time MBA students are eligible for merit-based scholarships and deferred payment. Our working professional students are eligible for need-based financial aid up to about 60% of tuition. When you take strong financial aid and salaries, that leads to strong ROI. So we're, you know, we feel like we've got a great value proposition for you guys. Our minimum requirements for the program: bachelor's degree and 2 years of working experience. Also proof of English language proficiency, which if you went to a school where English was the medium of instruction, you're fine. If not, then you'll just have to take the TOEFL or IELTS or some other English proficiency test. Our deadline, our first deadline is coming up October 29th. For the full-time program, our first deadline for the working professionals is March 16th. People always ask, what are the components? Resume, cover letter. These two elements help us understand your professional progression. Academic transcripts help us understand your academic capability and will you be a fit for the program with regards to the rigor that we provide. The essay lets us know your kind of clearness of thought about the program and how the MBA is going to impact your career. We also use the video statement to get to know you more. And then the recommendations are validations of kind of what you say in the application process. We do not require the GMAT or GRE. I talked about this earlier with our mission as a school target to the emerging markets. We feel like there are other ways to assess academic potential and people's and identify evidence that you'll perform in the program. We recognize that a $350 exam is very challenging for some people in different parts of the world. So in closing, I just want to say, you know, again, we're for the frontier-minded, impact-oriented individuals who want to go where business is going, not where it was, and who want to build a global career and make impact, not just their own context, but many different contexts. And through our MIT Sloan DNA, our action learning curriculum, our strong placement outcomes, and our market-leading scholarships, we feel like we really have a great value proposition for you guys out there. And so now what we're going to do is shift it over to our awesome panel. When we selected these individuals, we're like, oh, it's all female. And we're like, do we need to get a male? And I'm like, no, it's great the way it is, right? And so we're happy to have a panel with Ranjini Pushpa. She's a class of 2021 from Switzerland. No, not from Switzerland, from India, but she worked at Creative Switzerland this summer as a market research associate. Then we have Yizhen Feng. She's a Malaysian, just graduated, and she's working at AirAsia.com. She's a senior executive assistant to the CEO, doing a great job there. And then Luiza Mazzari, she's Brazilian, class of 21, works at HSBC. She interned there this summer. I met her boss. I just randomly met her at a function. And unsolicited, she talked about how amazing Luiza was. And I've always gotten unsolicited comments from the other two ladies as well, but it's just perfectly timed for this event. So we're gonna start off with our panel now. And would you guys like to introduce yourselves at first? We'll start off with Yizhen. kind of talk to us about, give us a little bit of a self-introduction, why you chose ASB, and what's been your number one reflection on the program.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean. It's a great pleasure to be here and speaking to everyone today. So, okay, just a quick background about myself. So I graduated with a degree in law from the University of Oxford in UK. And upon returning to Malaysia, I made the realization pretty early on that legal practice was not for me, not my life calling at all. So I thought about, so what I did was I went to work for the Securities Commission Malaysia, which is the capital market regulator of Malaysia. I worked as a policymaker and subsequently as the principal speechwriter and market and political advisor to the chairman himself. So basically I worked under the chief of staff for the chairman. So 5 years down the road in my role, I made a reflection and I realized that while the regulator plays a very noble role in facilitating innovation, the truth is the true driver of innovation actually happens in the private sector. And I wanted to be a part of that. So at the same time, as Sean will tell you, in Asia, employers really value
Uh-oh. All right, Luiza, you're next. And we'll pick up when Yizhen gets back on here.
Try new things.
Oops. Yizhen, I guess you broke during your talk.
So right when you were talking about the private sector and innovation, okay?
Okay, thanks, Sean. Thank you. Okay, so the true driver of innovation lies within the private sector. But as Sean will tell you, in Asia, prospective employers deeply value direct working experience. And coming from a government background, it was really difficult for me to get a role in the private sector of a commercial nature. So I had to think long and hard about how to bridge that gap to get to where I want to be. And ASB was the perfect solution for me, because while I knew that I wanted to be in the private sector and that I wanted to help companies innovate and try new things, at the same time, I wasn't anchored to any industry or role, and I was really open to everything. So ASB's unique action learning component, where I spent 30% of my time in every semester abroad helping real companies solve real business problems, was the perfect solution for me, because it allowed me to experiment, validate, and better understand what it was that I was truly interested in, what it was that I was good at, and what I'd like to do post MBA. And not only that, I think, so Sean also asked this question, right? What was my key takeaway, my one biggest key takeaway from ASB? I would say honestly, it was the action learning program, which firstly, it made me ASEAN ready, because I did projects across Vietnam, across Thailand, and I did my summer internship in Hong Kong. So I could confidently say that I had an understanding of the political, cultural, and business understanding of what it's like to work across ASEAN. So that was a huge selling point for me. And secondly, I was able to really craft my professional experiences by saying that, okay, I want to be in strategy, and I have done 5 projects across ASEAN in different industries, but all in relation to innovation and strategy. So that really impressed employers when I was subsequently interviewing for jobs, because every time they ask, oh, have you had experience doing this and that, I would be able to say, actually, that was my project for the summer internship. I did exactly that. And they were very impressed each time I had a real life example to all of the questions that they were asking me. So that was my biggest key takeaway from ASB.
Thank you, Yizhen. Luiza.
Hey everyone, good night or evening or afternoon, morning. So thanks for joining. So I'm Luiza. I'm from Brazil. Uh, it doesn't look like, but I'm 30 years old, and I'm civil engineer also, graduated in Brazil. And before ASB, I was working in a beverage company, AB InBev also, the one that Jishnu is going now. And I had one certain in my life that I didn't want to go back to school. That was something I had for granted. I had like 5 really theoretical years during my university. And that was like my unique certain in life. But then my fiance started to say, yeah, let's live abroad, let's explore the world. I said, yeah, let's do it. And then I started to see some opportunities outside. And I don't remember, but ASB came across during my research, and I started to, oh, that's not possible. Such like a practical MBA course. MBA shouldn't be like this. And then I started to searching LinkedIn, and I discovered a Brazilian girl that was doing the program. I kept in touch with her, and in 1 minute of conversation, I was doing my application. And then we decided, let's go to Malaysia. I need to do this course. It was like such a hands-on experience. So it was nothing similar to my university time. I could learn and do at the same time. That's what I had in mind as a truly learning experience. And here I am, no regrets. Hand over to Ranjini.
Well, let's talk about your, let's talk about your internship real quick.
Sure. So as Sean mentioned, I joined HSBC for the past 3 years. I started my MBA, my internship in June, and it was in the middle of MCO here in Malaysia. So I started doing it like virtual, and it kept like this for 2 weeks. And my project was really current subject about how HSBC should handle the new way of work for all the global brand HSBC. So it was amazing, like interact with a lot of head of departments, interact with directors to define like how they should analyze productivity from now on in HSBC, considering people were working from home. How they should like handle the security issues in the bank sector with the working from home. So imagine like in 1 week they were all at the office where like cell phones were not allowed because you are dealing with client data. And in 2 weeks you need to allow your employee to be at home with like laptop and all the data at home. So participating on this like change and trying to find a way to move forward with this sustainable way of work was really amazing. And the interaction with senior people, doing it online and on site, because after a while they opened the office so I could join also the discussions on site, was like mind-blowing experience.
Thank you. Ranjini, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Sean. So my name is Ranjini, and I am from Bangalore, India, which is south of India for those who do not know. I did my bachelor's in one of the universities in Bangalore, and soon after I finished my 3 years there, I got recruited off campus into Goldman Sachs, which is one of the biggest operations company in Bangalore. I have a 6-year experience overall working with Goldman Sachs. I started off at the backend operations office, but then slowly after 3 years, I kind of moved to a different division, which was more client based, where I could interact with clients on a day-to-day basis. I also started getting myself into more of a project management role where I was looking at automation and BI related like projects. And I think it was after 6 years that I decided that I would take a break from job and actually pursue my MBA. So the interesting story about my journey is I joined Goldman with a 2-year plan of quitting the company after 2 years and actually pursuing my MBA. But that 2 years eventually moved on to becoming 6 years. So exactly at that point, I think it was one of the toughest decisions because a career at Goldman, for me personally, I was doing really well. And so it was a tough choice to make whether I wanted to let go of something that I was doing well at job and then actually pick up something that I wanted to do, which was my passion from a very young age of doing my MBA. So with a lot of other decisions in mind, I think I finally did pick ASB. One main criteria that drove me here was definitely my interactions with Sean way earlier, before I even knew about ASB, and also from one of my childhood friends who was studying at the campus during that time. So with a lot of testimonies, that sounded amazing, and just was something that convinced me to join ASB at that point last year. So I think why definitely ASB is, as much as like we've seen in the presentation, it's not just in words or in writing that ASB promises to kind of give us or make us transformative leaders, but I've seen that, and I can definitely be confident to say that the last 1 year for me as a personal journey has been very transformative in multiple different aspects. And I think COVID is one classic example that this was something that no one across the world anticipated. And with COVID taking us all by surprise, we were challenged. Like my batch especially, I know Yizhen's batch as well, but my batch was challenged in multiple aspects. I remember the day Malaysia was almost announcing the close down or lockdown. Within 24 hours, this international students had to make a decision whether it was safe for us to be in Malaysia or go back to our home countries. And within like literally 24 hours, I booked my flight back to India for personal reasons. But nonetheless, ASB was able to deliver everything that they promised, both from an academic perspective and an experience perspective. Even though the syllabus or the curriculum kind of shifted from an offline to an online mode. With that being said, I guess if I were to talk about the top 3 things that I love about ASB and I would vouch for, is one, its diverse culture. I think with the breadth of international students and the experiences with which students come, just the class interactions make it so much more meaningful and enriching. So that for me is my first key takeaway. The second one, I would definitely agree with both Yizhen and Luiza, that action learning program, visiting 5 different countries, working on 5 different projects, literally liaising with top senior managements at these action learning project companies has been very, very different experience. So it's different from what you learn in class, because you're able to at least put that into practice in a very short time period, and challenge yourself to kind of solve some challenges that companies have been fighting for like years in like a span of 4 weeks. And I think that entire experience is so enriching. Third, but not the least, is the aspect of continuous learning. I think that is one thing that draws me very close to ASB. There is no day that we can relax and say, okay, now it's like nothing more to learn. It's day one at ASB every single day. So I think those are definitely my top three takeaways. To give you guys a bit of insight into my experience. Like I said, with us all going back to India, with me going back to India, I remember getting an offer from one of a really good company in Malaysia. And a week later from me coming back to India, the company actually took back their offer. So for me, it was back to scratch one, where I had to search for my SAP job again. And knowing the scenario across the globe where all companies were kind of not being open to let people come in because of the COVID situation, it was quite challenging to search for another SAP job. But through a bit of networking, I was able to meet this amazing founder, and she is the founder of Creative Switzerland, based in Switzerland. As much as I would have loved to be in Switzerland doing my SAP, I had to do it remote from Bangalore. But I must say that the experience and the learning that I got throughout my 3 months of internship was immense. This was one of the few startups, it's a 3-year-old startup, which could have easily said that COVID is kind of drained my entire business and kind of shut shop. As much as the business had to pause for a bit, the founder was one amazing lady that I met that did not give up. And I think that was something that made me also very positive throughout the last 3 months, to say, how can we do something different to make startup companies that are most impacted come back into business in a COVID environment. So throughout my 3-month internship, I helped with the marketing aspect, where we were trying to build marketing strategies for the business to come back. And now I must say it's actually kind of back into business. Over to you, Sean.
Thank you, guys. Great introductions. And so we talked about the diversity. We talked about the SAP experience. What was what was your most memorable element of your action learning project? And it doesn't have to be something that's super corporate, or it just speaks to your heart and something that was impactful for you during your action learning project. Luiza?
Yeah, I can start. So my first action learning project, I will share a personal thing with you. So my whole family is the doctor family, and I always regret that I am not a doctor, but I think that is the most amazing path that you can follow in your life. And but I cannot see blood. I cannot see a needle. That I get desperate. So I wouldn't be a good doctor. I know this. But when I saw my actual learning options and there was a hospital in there, I said, that's my opportunity of being at least in a hospital environment. And then I applied for this one and I got, and it was amazing because it was not in KL. So it was in a city that 2 hours from here, Melaka. That's a small city, so cute. And I had the opportunity to stay there, like in a great hotel for 4 weeks, like not like completely like 4 weeks, but like 2 weeks and then other 2 weeks. And it was amazing. My group was great. We had like endless discussions about issue 3 and how to solve the problem and what was the problem actually. So it was like, as a first experience, it was amazing. Like great lunches and dinners at the side, the riverside. And the outcome was like awesome. At the end, the CEO and the general manager were like sending emails to us and saying, thank you so much for your work. We did like 300, we surveyed 300 people in Melaka. So it was crazy. We went through the streets. We were like asking people like random questions about hospital. In the beginning, we said, we cannot make it. We tried like to go to people asking like, which is your favorite hospital? And they were looking to us like, what? Please don't bother me. I'm doing grocery. Like, and then we were so disappointed at the end of the day. We got like 4 of us, we got like 3 surveys answered. And we said, okay, we cannot do 300. We were so desperate. And then we changed the strategy. We were going in 2, and then we managed to do like the next day 100. And they said, my God, that's possible. We can do it. And in the end, we ended up like with a really good amount of data, and we could calculate the NPS for them. It's kind of like loyalty to the brand, measurement of loyalty to the brand that Bain & Company uses a lot. And when we present this to them, they were like, what? How did you manage to do this in 2 weeks? And we said, yeah, amazing, right? But they didn't see us like there outside in the sun begging for answers. But was like, for first experience, it was amazing. And like these guys today, we still like sharing when we see something related to the project, we message us in ourselves in the group, like, remember this day we were like begging for answers in the survey. Yeah. So my first actual learning in Melaka in a hospital was something memorable.
Great. What about you, Ranjini?
I must say the first action learning always is the most memorable ones. For me, I had the fortune of working with one of the government companies, but they were more into resorts and hotel management. So having no experience into hotel management, that was something that I wanted to explore after my MBA, more into like the marketing side of the businesses. And I think hotel management is one service industry that is constantly updating and upgrading their marketing skill sets. So working with these resorts, as much as the best experience was actually going to these resorts and staying there, which was at different locations. But I think the problem at hand was quite challenging when we got to know what the problem was, because they were trying to increase like their weekday occupancy during the weekdays. And I think the first question that came to our mind when we thought about hotels and resorts was, aren't like resorts and hotels meant to be for like a weekend or during a long vacation time? Who would actually go to these hotels on a weekday? And so as much as it was challenging, I think the one thing we've learned is to find a solution to every problem. And that's kind of the motivation that we went with. So we were able to actually like not fix their problem, but at least give suggestions that they could actually implement. And I think that was the entire objective of our project. But I think reflecting back, one of my key takeaways from the entire first experience was definitely the bond that we were able to build with our team members. Like Luiza said, the first experience, the first action learning, you don't know any of your team members as much, because it's literally within the first month of coming to ASB, you're assigned your action learning team and you're sent off to these random locations and asked to work together. So it's very challenging because you don't know each other's work style, you don't know each other's experiences, you also don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So I think trying to develop that, getting to know one another and actually building on each other's strength and learning, it's like a two-way process of learning. I was able to learn so much from my team, as much as like I was able to share a bit of my finance background that I had. But I must say that team bonding that we get with a diverse group is very, very enriching. And I think we get different action learning teams every semester. So getting to know each other is one of the, and trying to build that bond and develop on that bond in terms of learning is definitely one of experience at ASB.
Fantastic. And last but definitely not least, Yizhen.
All right, thank you, Sean. So my most memorable action learning project, hands down, has got to be the time where I helped, my team helped a Thai beer company come up with a strategy to penetrate the ultra competitive Hanoi beer market. And this, may I say, is no easy task, because the beer market in Vietnam is heavily crowded. There are at least 10 to 12 different beer brands there. There were some local policies that protected the local beer brands. So as a newcomer to a really mature scene, it was quite a task for our corporate partner, our host. So the interesting part about this project is that this is a Thai beer company that is headquartered in Bangkok, and the project in itself required market research in Hanoi. So our project, we had to actually split our time and spend a little bit of time in Bangkok, learning about their operations, learning about their strategies, what their strengths are, before going to Hanoi. And so in any sort of market.
Oh man, we just wanted to hear about the beer market.
And I guess, Sean, that Yizhen also won as best AL project, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's this one, but I guess it is, right?
I'm not sure if it was this one either. So we missed you for a second, Yizhen.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Where did I drop off?
Where was it? I think something about the beer. I can't.
I think I had everyone with beer. Okay, yeah. So all right. So
you were just about to do something, I think. So maybe from there.
Sure. Okay. So what's interesting about this project is that because the beer company was headquartered in Bangkok, and the project required market research in Hanoi, we had to split our time between going to Bangkok first, learning, understanding their operations, understanding what their marketing team's strengths are, and essentially learning about their corporate strategy before going to Hanoi. And now, so in any marketing strategy project, especially when you're trying to penetrate a brand new market, what you need is a real understanding of consumer preferences there, how the channels operate, and also you need to understand what the landscape is like, competitive landscape is like. So what we had to do, we had to visit every district in Hanoi and check out different bars, different pubs, and we actually had to segment the landscape. So we would go to the touristy bars. We would go to the bars that locals hang out at. We'd go to craft beer places. We go to places that were frequented by foreigners and expats, and just to see what the customer journey is like for each of these premises, to see what kind of customer segments that each premise was catering to, and sort of figure out what would be the best strategy for them to penetrate in. And it was a lot of market product testing, if I may. And so that made for a very merry 2 weeks. And what I liked the most about the outcome of that project was that we had to get creative in coming up with our recommendations, in our final recommendations for the host. Eventually, we came up with a recommendation that was kind of out of the box. Instead of serving beer at the restaurants, we should have beer trucks, or have a sort of beer vending machine at apartments and residential areas. Our clients loved. Our host really loved that idea. And the feedback we got from the host was really good. So that was my most memorable action learning project.
All right, so we're going to move to group chat questions. So Michelle Wong asked a question: are all action learnings in a group? All the ones during kind of the traditional semesters are group projects. Then your action learning, they've mentioned some SAP Summer Associate Program is what people commonly know as an internship. Those are individual. And with each of the projects, you also have a faculty member that's assigned to you to kind of provide support, perspective, and guidance through that process. Our internships tend to mostly be paid. This summer during COVID, it's been a little bit, I would say not all of them were paid. In prior COVID summers, pre-COVID summers, they were all paid. And that's the expectation that we have here at ASB. So I hope that answered your question, Michelle. Other questions? Emily had answered a question from Paulina about when can you apply for the working professional program. As I mentioned, our first deadline you can apply now for the full-time program, and that first deadline is October 29th. The application for the working professional program opens on October 19th, and the first deadline is in March. But one of the things that we'll do, even though the first deadline for the working professional program is in March, we will have rolling admissions. So if you apply earlier, you will get a decision before March. Other questions? All right, if we don't have other questions, when does the WP program start? Okay, so the WP program and the full-time program start at the same time. So this year they're both starting on September 28th. And then next year, the plan is for them to start at least within a week or two of each other in August 2020. Then Yizhen, she said, do you mind explaining our early admissions program? And so early admissions, for those of you guys who have less than 2 years of experience, this program is designed for high potentials who don't have the requisite work experience. You can apply for ASB right now, and if you get admitted, you'll receive a 50% scholarship, and then you just have to fulfill your work experience requirement, and within 5 years, or is it 3 years? I can't remember. I think it's 5 years. And then at the time of admission, you can, at the time you start, you can also submit additional information to get your scholarship reevaluated.
Yeah, so Sean, I'll just jump in here for 1 second if that's okay. So for the early admission, if you get admitted through the early admission process, the expectation is that you then go work for anywhere between 2 and 5 years. So you can actually, you can exercise your admission offer anywhere between 2 and 5 years after you get your admission offer.
All right, can the panelists talk about student life at ASB, specifically about the clubs? Also, I want you to talk about living together and spending all the time together, because it's a requirement for everyone to live on campus at ASB. So if you can talk about the club, student life, and living together.
Hey, I guess I can take the club part. I am a club officer. So here in ASB, we have elections for every year, where we elect like who will be the students' representatives, and I am the club officer. So my role is to help the presidents of the clubs to run their activities. So I work close to presidents and also the school. And we have 8 clubs here now in ASB. And the good thing about ASB is that you have the opportunity to do the things you want. So as Sean mentioned, we are early stage school. So we, in my cohort, we want to start like a innovation entrepreneurship hub, and we did ourselves. So the school gives you the opportunity to create what you want. You just need to go there and pursue what you want. And we have been handling a lot of activities, even during COVID times, engaging with the new students, the new cohort, and bringing them to join the clubs. So if you have more questions, I can address them also to you. And I guess there is we have some space in the website, ASB website. I can send the link here, and you can have more information there about the clubs. What was the other point that he mentioned?
Did anyone else want to talk about the student life, living together on campus? Ranjini?
Sure. I must say it's not always about just the academic perspective. Yes, the curriculum at ASB is quite rigorous, especially the first semester. We're constantly at the back of assignment, late night sitting and like getting things done. But it's not all work. Like Luiza said, we do have a lot of clubs and initiatives at ASB. We do have the student body as well that kind of makes sure that we host a lot of events, networking events, kind of initiatives that we want to drive for clubs as well. So as much as like Luiza mentioned that clubs are more from a perspective of interest, students can also kind of take part in these clubs. It can be ranging from finance clubs to public speaking clubs to innovation and entrepreneurial clubs to even we have a sports club as well. So being part of the co-presidents in the sports club, I must say that we have all kinds of engagement. I think it's an inclusive environment of learning, sharing, and also having fun at the same time.
Thank you. So we're going to go to another question real quick from Kanimoli, and Yizhen will address her question about action learning projects and human behavior and human resources.
All right, sure, thanks. So Kanimoli, I have just the perfect example. So to answer your first question, yes, there is a lot of human behavior or psychology involved in this because as you rightfully pointed out, sometimes when there are improvements that are recommended by external parties like MBA students who may be far younger than the people in charge, there are ways of navigating this. So and a part of the action learning experience is to honestly part of the action learning experience is that you learn how to lead change and how to lead impact even when you're not in a position of power. So in one of my action learning projects, I worked for a very traditional family-owned bank in Thailand. It was one of the largest banks in Thailand, and they are incredibly traditional and quite conservative in the way that they run. And so the project scope was to come up with a brand new strategy on thinking about how they can leverage social commerce, which is I dare say, even newer than e-commerce as a phenomenon.
All right.
Hi, sorry, did I cut off for a second?
Yeah, so you were at e-commerce as a phenomenon.
Right,
Leveraging.
okay. Right, okay, thank you. Thank you, Sean. So social commerce was even newer as a phenomenon than e-commerce. And so we had to come up with a strategy. So we did our research. We spoke to tech startups who were behind the e-commerce e-commerce industry. We went to shopping malls and spoke to all those small business.
All right, so we're waiting for Yizhen to come back, but Luiza just sent something about student clubs.
Right. So that was our first hurdle.
All right.
Maybe it's better to turn off the camera for her.
Yeah, just go ahead and shut off your camera. We'll answer another question though.
Meetings fairly early on. Hi, sorry.
You're breaking, Yizhen. Now I guess you're back.
Are you back?
I don't think so.
But Yizhen is on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So yeah, it was literally like on the present.
Oh no. So I'm going to answer two questions really quickly. Do we have to find the internship by ourselves, or is it similar to action learning? So I would say historically about 70% of the internships are through the ASB corporate partnership community. The other 30% are self-sourced, right? But it's kind of a random walk, right? So we encourage students to look for their own as well as count on ASBs. And so that's the answer to Seifel's question. Wakir Hamad said, can you share opportunities for consulting firms? Which are the frequent recruiters? And so in the first two classes, we had someone from each class go work for McKinsey. The first year they went to work for McKinsey in the United States. The second year they went to work for McKinsey in Taiwan, serving the Greater China resource pool. And so, and our head of, our director of the Career Services Office used to work at McKinsey in the US. I used to work in management consulting with Capgemini, Ernst & Young. So our career service team can support you and help you with the preparation process. I think one of the things in Asia, it's not, companies don't come to school. The schools are smaller here. So the consulting firms don't come to the schools. We have to push candidates out to the company. So to the consulting firms. So what they rely on is for us is to kind of screen and provide a pool of people who've gone through kind of the case preparation and things like that. And then they select from those individuals to interview in the multiple rounds. And so in the past year, we've had interviews, our students have had interviews with, I think, Bain, BCG, McKinsey, and a few other boutique consulting firms. And so it's really a function of the effort you put in from a case prep perspective, because if you think about the offices in Bangkok, Jakarta, KL, in this part of the world, there's really a talent deficit. So if students are open-minded and flexible about going to some of the markets in Southeast Asia, opportunity is plentiful. Let's see. Vishal, how have action learning projects and the learning from ASB helped you in terms of your professional maturity and dealing with key stakeholders? Anyone want to address that one?
I can take a stab at that. So I think this, Vishal, kind of relates back to something that Sean kind of displayed on the screen a little earlier on, how ASPs changed the soft and hard skills into sharp and smart skills. And for me, just to share a little bit more about the SAP journey, I must say that just my action learning projects and how the entire experience at ASB changed is during this entire pandemic. I think working with a startup gave me a lot more insight into the possibility that every day was a new challenge. And there was no day that I kind of had a very defined structure on how to go about. It was more around managing expectations with the founder, because I was dealing directly with her, and also seeing how we can build on the business as well. So I must say, like, the few skill sets that I could take away from just the action learning is one, the emotional maturity that you can actually display during challenging situations or adversity. How can you equip yourself to be not just positive, but also be willing to take on that challenge with a mindset that you can do something about it, and not just with a give up kind of attitude. The second one was definitely being very adaptable. I think that has been very resonant with the action learning projects, because just the stakeholders with the action learning hosts, these are very senior management that we are dealing with when it comes to like a 4-week project, right? And sometimes we as MBA students do come up with like some crazy innovative ideas, and it's a matter of how can we convert that into either numbers or substantial data that the stakeholders can actually buy in. As much as like we are MBA students, it is about how can you manage the stakeholders. You could be meeting like the CEO or the founder of the company once in those 4 weeks, but it is managing so many more stakeholders at play, not just the relationship with ASB and the companies, but also within the company, the employees. How can you integrate with the company with a short period of time and take on that challenging problem, and also address potential like solutions, or give them potential like path forward.
I think Yizhen has something to contribute to this point as well.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, to Vishal's question, I would say the action learning experience for me was instrumental to me getting my role here. So my current role is the Chief of Staff at AirAsia.com. That is the travel and lifestyle super app of AirAsia. So my job essentially involves managing people and managing relationships. So I have to coordinate special projects for the CEO. I manage stakeholders for her, and I act as an independent source of advice and ideas for my CEO. And the success of my role is really predicated upon the success of others. I have to really manage relationships, and not just manage relationships. I have to lead change and lead impact from a position while not having a formal position of authority. So now, in an action learning project setup where you are in a team of 4 of your peers, the question lies in how do you lead change when you're with your peers and you're not in a formal position of authority. So the action learning setup for me really challenged me to think about, what does it mean to leave an impact on your peers?
So, I used to say this all the time, right? If you can lead a group of MBAs with no authority, no performance evaluation, or anything like that, you can lead anybody later on in life.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Exactly.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Yizhen, for that example. I don't think we have any other questions, and I know we're running a little long here. Ladies, you've done a fantastic job. Really appreciate your sharing your insights. We really appreciate the audience. Fantastic questions. We want you to continue to engage with us. We're going to be on the road virtually and globally. And so these are a series of events that we have coming up all across the world virtually. Emily, our Senior Director of Admissions, will be in London. Gulnara will be in Russia. She'll be in Malaysia talking to people in Russia. I'll be meeting with people in South Africa, Nigeria, and then Emily will be back for Turkey and Lebanon. And so we're committed to building the most diverse and most global class in the world. Like we talked about, we're looking for frontier-minded, impact-oriented people interested in building global careers. And so one of the blessings of COVID is that even though we can't go in person, now we can go to more locations virtually. So we're up at all hours of the night just to engage with this great prospect market here. Also, we have a couple of ASB specific events. Tomorrow, if you haven't seen our professor, Laura Donna, she's one of the founding faculty members of the school. She's going to do a survival kit for future graduates of the MBA program. And so you can just scan these QR codes and they'll take you to our landing pages to register. Also, ASB is becoming a powerhouse when it comes to finance and economics. With the launch of our MCB faculty, our Masters of Central Banking program, it's connecting us to great resource and talent pools across the world, and we're becoming a center point of banking and finance. And on the 8th, we'll have a session on the emerging markets and international capital flows with Professor Atif Mian. He's a professor of economics from Princeton University. Scan that if you're interested. Also, if you want to schedule a call with me, you can scan the QR code, or with the broader admissions team, Emily, Fazila, Gulnara, all of us are online and we're happy to schedule a call. We recognize this is a significant commitment and we can talk about case-specific examples. I know sometimes people are like, hey, is my GMAT high enough, or is this enough work experience? And there's really not one answer. And so sometimes for us, it's better to talk to you to understand how we can kind of calibrate on all the elements of your profile. All right. And so with that, we want to thank you guys for coming out and spending an evening with us. We really want to thank our students and our alums, Ranjini, Luiza, Yizhen, thanks. Give a virtual bow, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Connect with us. Bye-bye.
Bye.